You thought it was an original plot, but it was me, the Royal Knights.
Oh, you cursed this episode. Pew pew, pew pew. Run, 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 run. Welcome to Potages, your critically nostalgic analytical tour for the Digimon anime. I'm your host, Jeff Ruberg. This week we're discussing Digimon Adventure 2020, Episode 20, the 7th one, Awakens. And my guest this week is the host of the Maniacs channel on YouTube and maintainer of the Digimon Card Network. Thanks for coming back on the show, Toya. How have you been?
I'm back. You can't get away from me. You can't escape me. I am inevitable. And also kind of like really tired, but I'm here.
Yeah, I think we're both really tired. But last time you were on, it was the first episode in the little like fake Tokyo mini arc with Eisbone.
Yeah.
So how have you, which I guess like 4 episodes ago, how
Yeah.
have you thought about the show since then? What do you think about the conclusion of that arc?
I want to stop, Jeff. Like, what am I? It wasn't the ultimate in disappointment or anything, but like I have seen the quality of this series. I've seen the quality of this series like gradually, I don't know, the animation quality has tapered off, definitely. And the actual writing has stayed mostly the same, I think. Like we have actual antagonists now. They're not keeping the whole thing under wraps for some enigmatic, unfathomable reason. But if this were just like a regular anime that I was watching and I was not like attached to putting out news about the merchandise in the card game, I would probably have dropped a while ago. I'll be very honest about that. Like I recently watched all of Grimgar, which is like a 12 episode anime from a couple years ago that has like a disappointing conclusion that doesn't really resolve the greater plot arc, but the journey to the disappointing conclusion was actually a pretty good like kind of slice of life fantasy series, and I felt much more invested in the day-to-day interactions of those characters than I do in these ones, which doesn't feel good to say.
Yeah. So are you at the point where like, so if you weren't invested in this particular series and making content updates for the card game and stuff, would you have completely dropped the series, or would you have like like waited to catch up until like watch it in batches later?
I would probably wait for either the season to end or for interesting things to like be talked about by other people and then catch up. Or I don't know, I guess it is entirely possible in some alternate universe that I would just drop it and not come back, because like normally they say like obey the 3 episode rule. I think we're on 20 episodes and there's not a hook for me right now. We had a lot of like, I remember having fun speculating on what the show would be like back in like the episode 1 and 5 period, and that window of like excited speculation has passed for me.
Yeah, I definitely, my like excitement to speculate has diminished, and I'm kind of just like, okay, this could get exciting again, or like this could get interesting again, but like it's no longer like extremely optimistic. It's kind of like morbid curiosity.
Yeah, I'm curious what the plan is. Is there a plan? Where's this series supposed to go versus where is it actually going? I'm like living for the fun individual moments where I'm like, oh, I know that Digimon. Wow, that Digimon's obscure. Why is that Digimon showing up? Oh, the episode's over. Okay.
Yeah. And I think I've mostly just resigned myself to like, okay, this is a show that is almost entirely focused on action, spectacle, and it doesn't always do that perfect. It doesn't always do that well. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's the Omega Man episode recently. And even when it's done well, it's still not, there's not much there below the surface. There's not much like character depth or development. It's really just like a fun action roller coaster to watch. But
it's not even that fun.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this will get me eviscerated probably by the adventure diehards, but like Cross Wars is very fun. I was very invested in the series by episode 20. That was like the Dark Nightmon arc with Nene going on. There was drama. I wanted to see how things were concluded. I was excited to see where that was going. And with this, I'm not really excited or invested in many of the characters at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you mean. I think even if I weren't doing the podcast, I would be excited just to like just the fact that it's these characters. That Adventure isn't even my favorite season, but
what's your favorite season?
I don't think I have one that like stands out. Like there's not like one that's like hugely divergent from the rest, but probably Tamers, but not by like a huge margin. And also like my ranking fluctuates a lot in terms of like basically whichever one I haven't watched in the longest time is like starts to creep up and like, oh yeah, that was really good. And then I watch it again and I'm like, maybe it wasn't that good. But It's just like the nostalgic rubber banding.
Yeah, you know, it occurred to me just now that like this series in the very early episodes, we had like, you know, the little montage of the different internet types in it with like dial up and Wi-Fi being shown.
Hmm.
This series is actually like very divorced from reality at this point. There's not a whole lot of like real world stuff going on that much, and it doesn't seem to be talking about like technology in a very digital way. And that's kind of like a little bit of Digimon tone whiplash for me coming off of the previous anime series that we had, Atmon.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of like, I see what you mean compared to Atmon, but I guess it's like the level of this show's connection to real life technology is like higher than most other Digimon seasons aside from Atmon.
Yeah.
I don't expect everything to be as integrated as Atmon, because even as good as Atmon was with that, I found it like often pretty cringy when they tried to like be too close to reality, and then we're just like very misrepresentative. Not that like a show should strive for like accurate representation of technology, especially in making it dramatic and fun, but there were just times where I was like, I don't think you understand how apps work. Like, I don't think you understand how smartphones work. But okay, sure, I guess this is fun, so that's fine. But yeah, well, that's a bummer to start the episode on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not very like hype man mood right now.
Where in the show do you feel like your like mood really took a turn?
Well, let's see. I think I said I was disappointed with like where we were in the last episode of this that I appeared on. Actually, the turning point might have been around the time that Gardamon showed up for the first time, because we were in that period of like being strictly formula with, okay, here's an episode, here's an evolution for a kid with a problem they didn't really have, question mark. At that point it felt like there wasn't much going on with the show, and so that definitely like lowered my expectations, especially after the initial excitement of like the first two episodes, the early like we crammed an entire arc into this 40-ish minute period. I think at some point it set in that like it's been complained about constantly, I think, in the fandom, the lack of like stock footage evolution sequences in this series. And when we're talking about that, we're thinking about the kind of like elaborate sequences that our two boys Taichi and Yamato are getting, and the like character favoritism that has been going on, in that these two are getting those types of sequences and the other characters are not, potentially for marketing reasons, because this is not just like a kids show. It seems like they are more narrowly going for a young boy demographic, and it's not as once you realize that, it kind of clicks that this show is not necessarily trying to be the more all-encompassing multi-target series that the original Digimon Adventure was.
Yeah, I think in on the With the Well podcast a couple weeks ago, AR put it pretty well that like the show's focus on kind of on action over character development and character writing is like, and like you're saying, like focused on this young boy demographic. It might work. It might be successful in terms of the popularity of the show and the successfulness of the media surrounding the show, but it's probably not going to have the same lasting impact on people that the original adventure had on us growing up.
No, I don't think it'll be remembered that well.
Yeah.
I will say that, like, okay, if this works, I'm not all doom and gloom about this. I'm just not very excited about actually watching at this point. And, like, I'm hoping that the series will turn around and that I will feel that excitement again, because I like when Digimon does things that are kind of new and interesting and even weird. Like, I mean, I am a Cross Wars apologist at this point. And Atmon too, probably. But
And a little bit of a, are you a Frontier apologist too?
yeah, but like that series, that series basically, there's less to apologize for it actually, I think, than Cross Wars.
Well, I'm just surprised because like, I mean, one thing the show has been doing that I thought would excite you is mixing in all these Frontier and Cross Wars Digimon.
Oh yeah, it does excite me. I mean, I am there for seeing those underused kind of obscure Digimon. But like, even if this show turns out to be like really mediocre in the long run, as well as in like the immediate term, that it has kind of disappointed fans gradually, it's been like a slow burn loss. That isn't necessarily terrible for the franchise as a whole, because if it succeeds with its target demographic and it does everything Bandai wants it to do in terms of roping in that little boy audience and getting the parents spending money on merchandise, because the show is merchandise driven. We've seen like the Digimon bath bombs and stuff they're coming out with in Japan, and the Digivices and stuff. Well, there can still be other stuff that is targeted at other sections of the Digimon fan base. That can still work out kind of casting a wider net rather than putting all your eggs in one basket. Like we recently got the news that like Digimon Survive was finally officially delayed. It's not coming out in 2020. They're adjusting their production schedule and expecting it to come out in 2021. That game is probably going to do pretty well with like the late adolescent and young adult audience. And so I would just want to be clear, like even if I'm kind of down on what Adventure 2020 is doing in the moment, my like long-term hopes for the franchise are still optimistic here.
Mm-hmm.
Damage controlling my own opinions.
I mean, I think like you were saying before about like, oh, if there were a like really exciting moment that everyone was excited about, it'd be like worth catching up to if you weren't otherwise invested in watching the show week to week. But for me, like as frustrated as I was by the Omegamon episode, and like not even that one, like I was frustrated by the episode before that too. Basically, 2 out of 3 of those episodes of that fake Tokyo arc. I feel like it was such a train wreck that I would have been so curious hearing people complain about it that I'd be like, well, I need to watch it and see the train wreck for myself. So
Oh, see, I'm the opposite. Like when I'm more engaged with my social media than I want to be. Like I think Tumblr Pavlovian conditioned me to have these behaviors and scroll through the stupid bird app we're all on now, even though I don't really get positive feedback from it. Like when I see people complaining about the most recent episode of something and commiserating about it, I'm like, my gears are grinding to a halt and I don't want to go in and watch it and see it for myself because I don't want to be like dissatisfied with something. I got that from like early 2000s PlayStation games. I've had enough of that for the rest of my life. But on the other hand, if like people are really hyped for something that just happened and not just like an episode preview, but something that they actually saw in an episode, that makes me want to watch it more and see what all the excitement is about.
yeah. On the note of things that have happened in the franchise recently, did you watch Last Evolution Kizuna, which recently came out in English?
Yes, I did see Kizuna, and I love it a lot. I assume we're not spoiling that at all on this show, right? Like it's so recent.
Yeah. I don't think we should spoil like any big plot twists in there or anything. But I think that it's kind of informed my general like disappointment in this show, and also like there's a very I don't want to mention it here without because it is kind of a big spoiler for the movie, but there's like a specific moment in the movie that made me think of this show a lot. And if you've seen the movie, you probably guess what I'm referring to. And it doesn't cast this show in a great light, I feel.
Oh, just like bleep this out, but is it the sequence?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay.
But the reason I brought up Last Evolution Kizuna kind of is that like it kind of reframed my expectations for the show. Like I am like we've been discussing like bummed out about this show recently, but I'm also like I'm no longer expecting that much. Like I'm kind of just content with okay, it's gonna be fine, and that's kind of the best I can expect. So
Let me put this like so with Kizuna, I kind of went in with low expectations. I did not read the novel like some people. I decided to leave myself unspoiled for when it actually aired because as long as it doesn't have anything to do with the actual card game, it had stuff to do with the Battle Spirits cross promotion things, but that was before I started my website.
I kind of want those cards; they look really good.
Oh yeah, they do. It was a cute like crossover type deal. But I don't know if I can go back to Battle Spirits. The power creep in that game is like extraordinary, and it's also really old at this point and hard to get into if you haven't already been invested in it. So like I felt that Kisuna actually gave me good closure and resolution on Digimon in general, and it was done in such a way that like even if it was a better note to end the adventure timeline on than Try. And if you had not seen Try, you don't really need to have seen it at all for Kizuna. I do think that like the director, producer, the entire team on Kizuna were kind of bitter about a certain sore point with the fandom and specifically their adherence to adventure and putting it up on a rather unreasonable pedestal that it doesn't really live up to. And I'm glad that they like put those thoughts and feelings into a film and like worked through them, especially a film like that is supposed to be like the capstone of a timeline. And the fact that we have Kizuna like as kind of the end of adventure means that I don't have to be too mired in like negativity about the current series, even if it got like super bad, worse than any Digimon season ever before with the reboot. I still have like that movie, that very good movie.
Yeah, the thing I admire the most about it is that like compared to almost all Digimon media, it has a point. You know, like
Yeah.
there's like a message that it's trying to get across from the get-go. And it's not a perfect movie by any means. Like we're talking about the reboot's focus on Titanium Yamato. The movie is totally guilty of that just as much.
Yeah.
But it uses those characters to actually convey something that feels like it like when I think about media, I'm often kind of like especially with like analyzing media. Like something can be a fun roller coaster, and that's often enough for me to enjoy it. But like it really takes it to the next level if there's like an answer to the question of so what. And oftentimes Digimon is kind of doesn't really have. It's just like okay, it was fun. And that's kind of most of the
Mm,
extent of it. So
yeah.
yeah, I was really impressed that it actually like had a and not just like an accidental like oh one line that really stuck with you and meant a lot to you because of one line resonating with you, but it was like no, the entire movie was unified around a point.
Yeah, there is like a reality that is beneath what is going on in Kizuna. Kizuna is a movie about something, which you cannot say for most Digimon movies, actually. Like, our war game has a lot of themes going on in terms of like our relationship to technology and the impact it has on our lives. But I'm not sure that our war game has a unifying like message because it is supposed to just be fun. And so I said earlier that like the current Digimon reboot series does not have a strong tie to reality or technology at this point, that there's not like a relationship between what's happening on screen and what is going on in the real world now. By contrast, I would actually say that like Digimon Tamers, for example, has a lot of things that it is making points about with individual episodes, potentially points that I'm not sure you can make to children, like the Hypnos organization and its relationship as like a government body being very invasive and surveilling people, and even tailing people to their houses. And some, or like, there's an episode where they feature basically just very casual racism being thrown at Lee's father. And then
Mm-hmm.
Tamers also has like a relationship to actual real world technologies, that the Digivice in that series is based on the real world Dynabook concept of this was basically like a kind of idea of what if you could give a computer to every child and have them engage with technology in a way that would like inspire a kind of next stage of learning, that they would be integrated with technology from childhood and be able to explore it and deconstruct it and play around with it. Not like a child coder thing, but more like the child understands how the computer works from a very young age and interacts deeply with it. By contrast, none of that's really happening in the current series. And I think that like Digimon is actually at its strongest when it does search for the real thread beneath what's going on with the fantasy we see on the screen. And I think Kizuna is very good at that. It's not the best movie ever made. And it's a contender for one of the best Digimon movies, I think. But it also relies very heavily on you being super attached to the existing Digimon Adventure canon.
Yeah, I think it also like gets a lot of it has an unfair advantage, I guess, in the sense that like it is like the only real full theatrical Digimon movie,
Yeah.
not like a premium OVA or like a short. So
Yeah, it's not like it's not something like the Toei Anime Film Fair, which technically Frontier killed that. And the other movies, okay? The lineup at the final Toei Anime Fair was terrible.
so yeah, let's move on to I don't think there's going to be a ton, but I'm curious what has been going on in the card game since your last thought a month ago.
So a little bit has been going on. We've been getting more and more reveals for Booster Set 3, and I've been kind of like struggling to keep up with it and get everything in the database in a timely manner. There's actually like 2 cards from yesterday / this morning that I didn't put in yet, just because I've been doing a lot of work. And so actually we got an announcement. So first off, like the pre-orders for the English Digimon card game, that the like early special release that's going out in November, have been doing very well according to Bandai on the Digimon card game Facebook page, that they are actually having to like limit orders in some fashion because they're getting too many and they can't produce enough to meet demand, which to me says, okay, they've already succeeded basically. This has been a financial success. And another piece of news is that like we have our first English tournament happening, and it's going to be a webcam tournament held in December, on December 12th and 13th. The registration stuff isn't like out yet, but when you are able to register, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go. It seems like a bunch of people are going to apply, and then they will invite a random selection from among them, and then whoever gets in will like be paying a registration fee, because there's going to be some prizes that are sent out to people, to like the top 16.
Or is this like an official Bandai run tournament?
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
on the Digimon card game English version Facebook page. They announced it October 16th at 7 in the morning. There's going to be some memory gauges given to the winner and some promo packs. But like, I have some mixed feelings about it, because in order to participate, you will have to be one of the people that got your stock in for the November early sale, which is going to be a pretty limited selection of people. And it's not just the US, actually. This is like everybody that gets the English card game all around the world will be able to play. And it's before the game actually comes out in January. So it's, on the one hand, it's going to be kind of interesting that those that do participate are going to have a very limited pool of cards to build from, because it's basically just going to be what they open and what they're able to trade for locally. But on the other, it's going to be a very limited participation. And I don't know if it'll like really drum up hype. I'm hoping it does like get people interested in the game. And also, we have, out of Japan, the next 3 starter decks have finally been officially confirmed. Starter decks 4, 5, and 6, Giga Green, Mugen Black, and Venom Violet, which do not have Mugendramon or Venom Vamdemon as the cover cards.
Right, they have Taichi with Blitzgreymon and Yamato with Kreskurumon, right?
Yeah, that was. I mean, I assume that the namesake Digimon are still going to be in there, but it's like weird for me that they put Blitzgreymon and Kreskurumon in there so soon after Booster Set 3 Union Impact, where they're featured very prominently, and their Jagras evolution, Omegamon Alter S, is also going to be in there. So, like, they're really hyping these two. And also, the fact that we got Taichi and Yamato as the Tamer cards again in 2 more starter decks. Come on.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, to me that's a bummer, but it also like it makes me excited about the potential of the anime. And I mean the fact that we're getting a black Taichi card in the Mugendramon deck.
With that evolution sequence they've been doing in the anime.
Yeah. And also like the potential of, I mean, I guess at this point it's not going to be surprising if Kreskurumon and if Blitzgreymon and Kreskurumon show up in the anime, but
Yeah,
that is an exciting prospect.
I know. I'm just like, we already have the Black Taichi Tamer card. We could please, like any other character, just come up with somebody.
I like the I forget which collect. I think it's the box toppers for the third set where there is it's sorry, I'm trying to find the like image that has all 6 of them.
I need to put those alt arts in the database. Yeah, we're getting box toppers of the security Digimon. The Digimon with the effect that when they're revealed from security, you can play them without paying the cost.
But the thing that I find so funny about those is that like it's like there's what's the actual name? Blacktailmon for
Yeah.
Black Automon, and Blacktailmon is not a black color card; it's a purple card.
The promos are Greymon, the blue version, Airdramon, Ankylamon, Flymon, Gururumon, and Blacktailmon, who is purple.
Right. So yeah, I think it's the fact that there's Metal Greymon blue version, who's not a blue card. There's Gurumon, who's is Gurumon purple or black?
He's black.
Black. So like, oh yeah, there's a purple Gurumon who is black. There's Blacktailmon who is purple. Blue Metal Greymon who is red.
He's not Metal Grey. This one's not the Metal Greymon.
Oh,
one.
so it's Greymon. Sorry. Yeah.
That Greymon is in the set. But like, so the Greymon promo that is in the box topper is a Digimon that has been called Greymon parentheses blue, but it's just called Greymon on the card. And then the Metal Greymon you're thinking of is actually the original Metal Greymon from before Digimon Adventure aired that was virus type. And they created the vaccine version that we know now that's orange for the anime, and that has become like the default Metal Greymon.
Yeah. I just like the as we get more and more cards and get more and more of these like color variant recolors of Digimon, and that they don't match the color they're actually in the game, it's like
yeah, it's fun. We also like got the announcement. This has not been officially confirmed, but it is up for pre-order at places like basically the like sales sheets and listings from Amazon and stuff leaked that Booster Set 4 Great Legend. Or wait, have we seen the Amazon for this? Maybe not. I think this one came from a magazine originally. Booster Set 4 Great Legend is going to be coming out at like some point.
yeah, I personally am like, this is the first one like the pre-orders went up and I was like,
Oh, right. We do have a sales sheet for this. December 18th. This is the one that like it's supposed to support a named Greymon archetype, like cards with Greymon in the name. And the sales sheet shows artwork for War Greymon and Shine Greymon on it, but it uses the existing artworks that we've already seen. So it seems like there might be pre-orders for that. Also, the War Greymon shown is the War Greymon in black that is not Black War Greymon.
oh, the naming for this, it's not a problem, it's just funny. um,
No, the actual card game, like it runs on card numbers rather than names. So you can have up to 4 copies of any card with the same number in your deck, and it doesn't
yeah.
matter if you have like 8 cards with the same name or anything. So the names don't actually cause gameplay issues.
But yeah, this is the first one that went up for pre-order, and I was like, I guess it was the first one that went up for pre-order after the English version was announced. So I was like,
Yeah.
do I still want to? So I pre-ordered at least one box, but mostly just to look at something, I guess, to throw money into the void.
I'm wondering if this is well, the set size is too big for it to be like a sub booster or a half booster or anything like that. But I'm wondering if this is actually primarily supposed to be a reprint set with some new stuff that the reprints interact with mixed in.
Hmm.
To like kind of stall out the Japanese game for a bit so that the English game will sync nicely with it.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know, that's speculation.
Well, yeah. So I guess we're still a couple months out from the English release. Aside from the that pre-sale thing is happening next month. Is that right?
Yeah, and like it's rough for people to find stores that can do it. I mean, the demand was high. Thankfully the demand was high from the start. The fan base really rallied around this and is trying to make it succeed as much as possible. But that also means that supply is really limited.
Yeah.
I probably won't be able to get in on the pre-sale, okay? That's how bad it is.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm kind of like I'm too busy to stay on top of this enough to get on the pre-sale, so I'm just waiting for January for the full release, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll be exciting to see it out there and tournament happening, even if it's going to be weird with that happening through just the pre-sale.
Just keep your expectations low for the tournament because I'm fully expecting that they're going to be like, okay, there's a 15-minute time limit on games, and you're playing best of one. We hit time and all effects turn off, or something weird like that. These early like promotional hype tournaments are rarely up to a high competitive caliber. I speak from experience with Bushiroad.
Yeah, I was wondering like, oh, maybe it's worth getting on the ground floor with getting pre-sale cards and just like participating for trying to really participate in the tournament. But then it's like it's going to be so chaotic and like luck based, especially if it's hard to even get cards at that point.
If they like record the games and try to put them up on like an official YouTube channel or something to drum up hype, I could see this like being kind of like remember when the new Smash Brothers game was coming out and they had like invitational tournaments that were commentated for it, that where they just like got the most skilled players they could find to play a bunch of matches with items on.
I don't remember that, so maybe that's not a good
Oh,
a good
sorry.
sign.
I fight in games sometimes. I fight in games.
I tried to get into fighting games when Grand Blue Fantasy Versus came out, and I couldn't, even as much as I wanted to like the game so much. So yeah, so it'll be interesting. I'm excited for that, but it still feels like it's still a ways out.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into this week's episode, episode 20, The Seventh One Awakens, aka Taka-Who's the Seventh Digidestined. Oh boy. aka Taka RuPaul's Flying Drag Race. The spoiler policy for this episode, like every week, we were talking about everything that was in the Crunchyroll episode, including the title and preview for next episode, but will not be bringing up any titles for stuff beyond next week or text synopses or anything that have been released online. So yeah, Toya, we've talked a lot about our general impressions about the show in general up to this point, but what did you think about this episode in particular?
Well, it wasn't the worst one. Okay, there were little moments in this episode where I was like, yes, like Velgermon showing up. We like finally see him, this awful weird bird boy returning. And I don't know, whatever was going on with Angemon in this episode. It was interesting. Actually, one thing that I did notice is that so a big focus of this episode is fighting Velgermon, and actually it seems like the references they used for the character this time, they look very on model, which you cannot say for every Digimon that has ever appeared in the anime series. They look like they were pulling from the original reference sheets that we've seen from Digimon Frontier for Velgermon all those years ago.
Is that particularly surprising for Velgermon in particular?
No, I just think it's neat because like they didn't try to redesign the character or make it more like modernized in any way. Like they did this with Lilithmon in Cross Wars, that they like modified the design of a Digimon that has been around for like forever and a day, and like really tried to make her more contemporary, I guess, in that moment of 2010's anime. And this one still like kind of moves in the same way that the original did. Except for they're like, I don't know if you noticed this with the zone delete attack, but it was missing something. It didn't have the like face on it that it makes in the original Frontier.
It makes a face? I don't
Yeah, in
remember
the
that.
original Frontier, when he does zone delete and the like, it opens as two big black circles or semispheres closing in on one another to form a mouth, and there's like eyes on the top of it. And
Hmm.
this time it did not have that. It was just a big black circle.
I guess do not remember Frontier well enough because I did not remember that attack from Frontier at all. So
Oh, we should rewatch Frontier together.
yeah, and Cross Wars and particularly Hunters.
We should watch Atmon with the official subs, really, is what we should do. We don't have to watch it raw anymore.
Oh, okay. I thought you were comparing because I was listing bad things and then you listed Atmon with official subtitles and I was like, do you dislike the subtitles that much? Like,
I mean, I have my quibbles with them, but like everybody that speaks Japanese quibbles with everybody about stuff.
but yeah, like what you're saying about Volgamon moving faithfully, I'm like, did Volgamon move? I didn't see it. He just floated and moved across the screen. Just was dragged
That's
across the
how they
screen.
did it in the original.
It's faithful. It's just like the car artwork. He just is drawn once and then dragged across the screen.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I feel like this episode, I feel like it was successful in setting up these dramatic moments and like, but it felt like padding. It was like not much happened in the episode because it was like not much was meant to happen. I feel like in the moment it worked. Like as I was watching, I didn't feel like nothing happened, but then like it feels shallow looking back at like it's recreating this like the big iconic Angemon disappearing moment, but there's no
Yeah.
substance behind it. It's just
No.
these are things that are happening. Even Yamato like calling out for Takaru and like bursting through the bubble in what feels very much like Beelzemon in Tamers, but like there's some stuff that we've seen him be worried about Takaru for a while, but like still it's not like compared to that Beelzemon and Jerry moment. Like there's in contrast to that, there's no substance behind it.
You know, I saw people comparing it to that, but that's not what my brain jumped to when I was watching the episode. I thought that it was actually more like the either the Frontier episode where they are trying to reach out to Velgermon to the, I guess, spoilers for Frontier, there's a human inside of him, or to the Cross Wars episode where Lusamon Seidan mode has Nene in the big darkness orb in his feet.
That's your problem remembering Cross Wars too much. No. um, yeah, those are probably better like actual parallels to what's happening. Whereas I think it was just the imagery of a bubble and bursting through a bubble and like reaching a hand
Oh,
out.
because of, yeah, I think Taiki might do that with Nene in the Cross Wars episode, which is what made me think of it. But yeah, now I think about it because Beelzebumon has like he has that's a scene that they built up a lot more to with him using Leomon's attack on the bubble,
Right, it has like a whole season's arc worth of character buildup on.
and this just happens.
Yeah, yeah. Although this episode did still have Fist of the Beast King. Sorry, Juoken. Fist of the Beast King. I'm not allowed to say.
You can what? I missed the previous Prodigious episodes and I haven't caught up yet. Were you banned from that?
No, it's just I don't like how they don't translate it. I mean,
Okay.
I know it's standard for anime to to leave in attacks like Bleach, Getsuga Tensho, like Getsuga Tensho, whatever his name is attack. Like it's common to like in shonen anime to leave in Japanese attack names and stuff, but like Haoken, Juoken,
I mean, when Tales of takes Majinken and then says Demon Fang, I'm like, well, yeah, it works, but like, I don't know if it's the same feeling.
yeah.
Well, actually, speaking to your point about this episode and like stuff happening that was also not happening, my notes at this point, which are definitely stream of consciousness, there's one line where I write, or Jamon, my brain is off.
I guess the real crime with Juoken is writing with the Y. I just hate the Y. Like
Yeah, I don't like that romanization either.
that romanization is like
I don't like what they do with Jagamon's name in official Digimon materials.
oh, how do they do
It has the Y as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess for the same reasoning.
It's a silent Y in Japanese also, by the way. Like,
Right, like
for
just
anybody
because the Y,
listening.
just because Japanese has a silent Y, you don't need to transliterate that into English. Like, ugh, yeah. Well, anyway, this episode was a lot of like tense, long, extracted tense moments that don't really have much stuff behind them. But it was some fun moments, and I feel like Velgerman was an intimidating threat that was like built up enough
Yeah.
to make him seem really scary. But yeah, and it also just feel like the pacing of like Angemon coming out of nowhere and then like already being partnered with Takaru, which feels so quick, even though it's just quick considering he came out of nowhere in this episode. And then it's like, oh, and then he was snatched away at the end. It's like it both feels like things are happening too fast and too slow.
Yeah. Oh gosh, like consider Takeru's first experiences with the digital world. He's kidnapped, thrown in like a clone tank, and then rescued and gets a Digimon partner who immediately dies. And I think his only lines of dialogue are still brother.
No, he talks to Velgramon and is like, Yamete!
Oh, all right, okay.
I love that there's a tweet going around on Twitter from at Goggleheaded that's just like, can we appreciate that this 8-year-old boy who probably doesn't even know what Digimon are looked at a giant demon bird in the eye and yelled at it to stop hurting everyone because damn. Oh, that's a good tweet.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's great for your character when your only lines of dialogue are "Oni-chan, yamete." That's it.
Yeah. Oh well. Well, let's dive into the recap, and I think we'll have some more thoughts that come out through that. So,
Yeah.
the episode starts off with Velgramon appearing while they're in Valvemon, and he basically like is paralyzing everyone on the ground, and then rips open Valvemon, pulls up Takaru. So everyone jumps out of Valvemon, and the that attack, which what's it called? Zone deleter.
Yeah.
Starts to the big black hemisphere forms around Valvemon and just completely crushes him. And Leomon describes Velgramon as the dark beast that is feared to swallow the dead in ancient legends, which I only found notable because okay, that's like cool lore. It makes him seem really intimidating. But like this episode finally addresses what happened to Digimon when they die. They turned to Digitama. So how does that fit into Velgramon swallowing the dead? When they're dead turn into digi-eggs.
Well, okay, so this is really weird, but the one that swallows the dead is actually yeah, that's from its Digimon reference book profile, but Wikimon translates that as the corpse swallower.
That's more intimidating as a
Oh,
name.
looking at the Japanese text of that profile, that looks like an epithet that's put in quotes rather than like a
Mm-hmm.
literal, this is the one that swallows the dead.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like a title.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that like comes from like lore inspired by human lore, probably. Like there's probably what is the namesake? What is the etymology?
Oh, Hraesvelgr from Norse mythology.
Hmm.
Actually, there seems to be a recurring theme with that in the current series that we had like Nizogmon and then we've got Velgermon, and there's not a Ratatoskmon that I know of, but they could do that.
Yeah, apparently the the in Old Norse, Hraesvelgr translates as corpse swallower. So that makes
Oh,
sense. That
okay.
fits.
Yeah.
Doesn't really fit in Digimon lore if they don't have corpses, but you know, oh
Oh,
well.
heck. You know what? I hate this. Okay, we've had Velgermon, we've had Nizogmon. What if they what if this is just building up to Yggdrasil showing up in Digimon Adventure?
Oh no.
You thought it was an original plot, but it was me, the Royal Knights.
Oh, don't even you curse this episode. Well, anyway, so Leomon stays back, or sorry, while Velgamon starts to fly away, Megadramon appears, and Megadramon disappears to give Leomon a reason to not be in the episode, basically.
Yeah, I forgot Megadramon was in here until I looked at your summary.
Yeah. And I forgot Leomon was in this episode as well because he just is, they need a reason for him to not be in the episode, I guess. So yeah, they Garurumon and Greymon evolve, and they ride on Melgremon's back as Metal Greymon chases Velgramon, and neither of them is animated. They just both float in the. They're not literal animation cells, but basically they're just cells moving across the screen.
It's just a static foreground.
Yeah, static foreground. And then in a park in the human world, we see that Koshiro is on his laptop trying to connect to Taichi and can't. Sora brings him some drinks and complains that her mom chewed her out for disappearing. And she asks if Koshiro is in trouble, and Koshiro is kind of like dodges the question and is nervous to answer or whatever. So yeah, we get this first glimpse into the fact that the other kids might have parents.
And you know what? Between the kids like randomly appearing in the digital Tokyo they weren't anywhere near in the previous episodes, and now like being thrust back into the real world, this feels kind of like a random events plot. Like it doesn't feel sequenced, like this is progressing in a particular direction that was structured. It's just like they decided they needed to not have the kids there in the digital world for this particular probably pair of episodes, so they just shoved them elsewhere.
Yeah, especially when it's like that moment where they get flung to the human world felt so like, especially with Devimon as San Devimon, like it felt like it was going for the parallel with Devimon in the original show, like flinging them to the like splitting up File Island and flinging them to the different sub islands. Like that moment, this one like pales in comparison, and it's just like, yeah, I agree with you. It feels like they're just written out because they're not important for this plot.
There's not like a transition to this either. Like we don't get them adjusting back to the real world. We just open on they're in the real world now.
Yeah, I appreciate it just for the glimpse into the kids having parents and lives of other Digimon. what I'm worried about from how this is framed, like I definitely think with how they framed Koshiro dodging the question, that feels like a smoking gun, or not smoking, a
Yeah,
Chekhov's gun. Like, okay, it seems that they brought it up and dodged it enough that it is conspicuous and like they're clearly going to address it again. That I like. I'm excited for that potential.
he could have a bad home life. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Koshiro having a bad home life.
Mm. Yeah, I don't like the way he acted here is not what I expected. Like, it seems like his home life troubles are different than the original show.
Yeah.
That's how I put. Like I don't. It doesn't really fit with like someone who is distressed because they know they have been adopted and are like feel distant from their parents. This does not seem like that same struggle. So,
What if the real sin of the Digimon Adventure reboot is that Koshiro is not adopted in this version?
I mean, if you see the general like, it's my problem with the changes in this version is like changes are good, changes are fine, changes are exciting. If the changed version is exciting in its own right, and I'm worried that like all these things, like the execution of the change is not going to be as good as the original one, then it's going to pale in comparison. But yeah, but what also worries me is that like Sora's the glimpse we get into Sora's home life troubles, I don't know, like seeing her mom and then kind of like blurred out that way felt to me like that was the extent of it. Like they were not going to see any more than that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of disappointing. That like we'll just like Sora's mom will only exist as that like faded out background character, which is a big bummer, but is also totally in line with how the series has acted so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all the Digimon eventually connect to Koshiro's laptop, and Koshiro notices that they're in like the network space, and he mentions that there are network problems around the world, and we see a lot of. It seems like whatever that thing that hatched from Nintagmon is causing trouble. But then there's like a silhouette of Gesamon floating around, and I'm like, why Gesamon? Of all things, maybe it's just representing like random Digimon threats.
maybe Devimon sent multiple Digimon. We don't know at this point.
Yeah. But yeah, back in the digital world, Metal Greymon is trying to catch up to Velgramon. Where Gurumon has an idea to to surf on Metal Greymon's Giga Destroyer missiles, which was a great sequence. I
Yeah.
guess it was
It it
fun. Made no sense.
it was a great sequence. It was like candy. I ate it up and then I forgot it was there.
It's like a great gifable moment. It's a great thing to like be spread around social media and has no more substance to it than that, I guess.
Anime junk food.
Yeah, yeah.
It felt good at the time.
Yeah, yeah. It honestly, the thing it reminded me of was whatever it's called in Yu-Gi-Oh, where they have duels on floating surfboards in
Uh
Vrains. Is it speed duels?
Vrains? I didn't. I'm sorry, I noped out of that. I couldn't. Speed
I,
duels, rush duels. No wait, rush duels is the new thing. They're not the motorcycle things.
I think it's speed duels, but it was silly. And anyway, it's so basically where Gurumon lands an attack. The sequence of this frustrates me because it's like so the missiles get fired. He rides on the missiles. He jumps off the missiles. He does his attack, and then the missiles land. And I'm like, that's not how missiles work. But okay, sure.
Screw your physics. I'm Wergarurumon. Woof woof.
Yeah, but that slows down Velgamon enough that Metal Greymon can catch up and shoot his trident arm, which then Yamato runs down on, which I only appreciate because of the similarities to the scene in Final Fantasy X where they crash the wedding.
Yeah, I saw you tweet that.
Yeah, which I don't think anyone is appreciating. I think I am rare in finding that as a
I
fun
mean,
parallel
the
there.
sequence in Final Fantasy X was gloriously stupid. This is, it's there and then it's gone.
Yeah, true. But yeah, Yamato gets up to runs down to the bubble and tries to wake up Takaru, sticks his head in eventually, gets his hand in, and then tries to wake him up.
And now they are both inside the book killing miasma.
The book killing?
Yeah, do you remember the
Oh,
episode where they couldn't cross the miasma and they threw Joe's book in there?
Yeah, I remember that fun moment.
That feels forever ago now. I wonder if this is actually the same stuff or not.
I hadn't connected to that, but I guess I was just thinking of it as general vague darkness that can be whatever the show wants it to be.
It's the Cross Wars Luchamon Darkness Orb.
I will trust you that was a thing.
I will send you screenshots. You will see the cinematic parallels between Yamato and Takaru and Taiki and Nene.
It is coming up on 9 years since I watched Crossword. I really need to fix that. But yeah, anyway, once Takaru's hand finally connects, both their crests glow, and Angemon kind of glows somewhere.
Crucified Angemon to be censored in the 4Kids English dub.
Crucified by random chains of darkness, I guess. I don't love this, like I know it's not the first time we've seen like their crests glowing. Like when the feathers fell, like we saw like the crest of light and the crest of hope and stuff. But like one thing I appreciate about how the lore of Digimon was kind of reframed in episode 5 of the show was that it seemed like it was less focused on prophecies and more on like we enacted a plan to solve this problem. And like the fact that you like it's not that like Taichi is Agumon's fated partner. It's more that like, you know, it's not like a fated partner dictated by some prophecy. It's like it seemed like it was like some holy Digimon enacted a plan and like chose these kids because they seemed like a good candidate and then matched them up. But this is more like because later in the episode Takaru and Angemon touch and then Takaru gets a Digivice. But the fact that like clearly they have this bond before they even touched is like feels like fated bullshit.
Yeah, my commentary, like when I was taking my notes during this part of the episode, it reads, "Oh no, Takaru is doing things and I haven't been paying attention. Wait, is Angemon inside Velgramon? Oh no, he's underground. Who put him there?"
Yeah, like he the moment where he broke out of the ground, I was like, was he just in the ground right here in this random spot that they happen to be flying overhead of? Why here? What else is here? What is going Did he really come out of the ground? That can't be right. Surely he didn't just come out of the ground. Oh, he came out of the ground? Oh, okay, if you say so. uh,
The
yeah.
next line I typed was, "Are we not getting Patamon? Is he just going to stay in Angemon form like Tailmon?" Wow, power creep.
What if he just becomes like a shrunken Angemon? It's like a tiny little Angemon. Just
Oh
like,
my gosh. Angemon Next Edge style. Make it happen.
ooh, that would be cute. Everyone should get Next Edge did forms. So once Yamato gets Takaru pulls him out of the bubble, they this moment where Taichi and Yamato agree to retreat. Like I forget how I think it's like Yamato's like let's retreat, and Taichi's like okay, and then Weregurumon and Melgurumon are like let's just do one last attack to delay them, and in the course of attacking get like knocked back, and it's like so that line about retreating is just not happening. Okay, sure.
They're winging it. I appreciate that. They're in way over their head and they're just winging it.
Yeah, and they're just directly contradicting each other and like without even mentioning it. Like, sure. But it was a cute moment where like they're all following and like Yamato is like holding Takaru and then Weregurumon's holding Yamato and then Middle Greymon's holding Weregurumon. It's like a little Russian doll of Digimon. Or Matryoshka doll, whatever they're called.
Nesting dolls.
Yeah, the nesting dolls. And then the hemisphere forms around them. Takaru yells at Valgamon. Angemon cracks to the ground, rockets around, protects Takaru, and they bond. Angemon's light heals Metal Greymon and Weregurumon and seems to power them up. This was a cool tweak that like it reminded me like I forgot that like this is not something really seen with the angelic Digimon that I can recall that like them just being a support role.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Angemon is a healer. Metal Greymon is a DPS. Weregurumon is also a DPS, and they have no tank.
Yeah, they have no tank though. Metal Greymon's kind of a tank. He's a big boy.
Angemon's a bard. He has like the passive HP regen thing, but he also enhances people's attacks.
Well, I get Metal Greymon's definitely a tank because Velgamon, whenever he attacks, only attacks the metal parts of Metal Greymon. So like he must have some kind of like I don't know the generic term like enmity or whatever the thing that like attracts the enemy to a specific
hate aggro. He's like drawing aggro.
Yeah. There was a moment where when Metal Greymon uses Gigastorm and there was like dramatic music or something playing in the background, so I couldn't hear it definitively. But I swear instead of saying Gigastorm, he said Gigastorm. So you know the hard G has been corrected. Maybe I think that's the highlight of the episode. But yeah, Angemon. This big dramatic moment after Angemon heals them and powers them up and they defeat Valgamon, Angemon just starts to flicker and fades away and turns into a Digitama. And then I wrote down, Agumon explains that all Digimon are born from Digitama. Gabumon explains that they're reborn as Digitama when they die. And then Toya explains that you can have a maximum of 5 cards in your Digitama deck.
You can have a maximum of 5, but like unless you're playing either a super fast accelerating deck like green with Mimi or a slow tanky one like black, you might just want to run 4 anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like with the limit on you can only have 4 cards with the same card number, that applies to your Digitama deck as well. So often what you end up with is like, here's the 4 Digitama I would actually like to have on the field, and then here's the last one that I'm running so that I have a 5th Digitama card, when a lot of decks don't get to like their 5th Digitama card anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not everybody should do that, but like if you find you're never reaching your 5th Digitama card, it might be better to just always guarantee you have the same Digitama out every time.
Yeah. And I guess like they're using the subtitles here. The official thing they're going with this time around is Digitama, because I think in the English screenshots we've seen of the English version of the game, they're going with Digitama on those cards as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, you know what? This I don't know how to feel about this. Like they shouldn't be going with. I don't know how to feel about this actually.
You have complex localization feelings.
Yes. I don't like Digimon localization. So this feels like they are using the Bandai Asia names for everything, which at least we would have consistent terminology then. But okay, I actually hate how the Digimon card game is being localized with like certain names and words being used. But I won't get into that right now because we're talking about the episode. With Digitama, the issue has always been that they chose to translate that as Digi-Egg, and then they also chose to translate back in the day Digimental as Digi-Egg. So you had two separate
Yeah.
things that were called Digi-Eggs, when in the original Japanese, those things are unrelated.
Right, they both look like eggs, but one looks a lot more like eggs than the other one.
And like, not even all of the Digimentals look like eggs. Like the original Digimental, this idea actually first came from V-Tamer, where it was a pendant.
Oh, I didn't realize that's where the term came from.
And like the Digimental, the other Digimentals that didn't show up in the anime series that like show up in the card game and the video games, like the Digimental of Darkness, those don't really look like eggs. And the Digimental friendship is basically a shoe.
That's what my egg looks like. You don't judge.
Jeff, were you born from a weird egg?
Yes, this is
Jefferoth Pedigious last name. Were you born from an egg?
I don't know why this just reminded me of Mork and Mindy, where the aliens from Ork are born from eggs. That's a reference that will go over the head of everyone who's listening to this show.
Yeah. Well,
that's a show from like the 70s. That
I only know about it because I learned about it after Robin Williams died.
Yeah. On that depressing note.
So the Digitama stuff, beyond just like, I'm in favor of Digitama as a translation. I don't know if I'm in favor of it being used in official translations in this like context, but okay, I guess we're running with this. The fact that they're just like dropping this lore incidentally feels very bad.
Yeah, that was the main point I wanted to get across, and I forgot about it. So it kind of reframes the cavalier way that the kids have not cared about Digimon dying so far. It reframes it because now it's like, okay, so clearly this concept of being reborn to Digitama exists in this world. Great, so maybe it's not as dire they're letting Digimon die. But the fact that Goblin has to explain it, presumably to the kids in universe as well as the audience, means that they didn't know about it, so they have just been completely cavalier up to this point. Like, it's nice to know that, like, oh, they haven't been dying permanently, but the kids didn't know that when they've not had any remorse. So
right, the kids were just, this was like 8-bit theater or something. The total like, what, you mean we weren't murdering them the whole time? Okay, whatever.
Is 8-bit theater a relevant internet reference in 2020?
I mean, I've seen your statistics for like the general age range of people that watch your show. Most of them have like read 8-bit theater back in the golden days of webcomics.
I am curious. That feels like decades ago to me. Write in if you know what 8-bit theater is.
I was like, honestly, I was a little more sad that they killed Velgramon Best Boy than Angemon right after, because the Angemon thing is so phoned in, and Velgramon is such a good design.
Yeah, I guess it's just echoing our sentiments back from the day of the like Omegamon stuff, where it's like you're recreating this iconic moment and it doesn't have the same substance behind it, so fine, I guess.
It's not even well animated like the Omegamon one was.
Yeah.
The glowy scar thing on Velgramon is cool, like he's Ganondorf or something in Twilight Princess, but that's about the extent of it. My notes for this section say, I know why I'm calling it Digitama, but why are you calling it Digitama?
Well, because I mean, I don't think it's crude because like we know it's an egg, like it's kind of like neat flavor text to as a localization choice. I don't hate it, but yeah, I don't know.
I'm not against it. I'm just confused.
Yeah. Speaking of localization choices for the card game, my number one hatred for the artwork we've seen in the English card game is the centering of the Digimon names. Maybe I'll get used to that, but like
my number one issue is the Tamer card names.
The names of the Tamer card?
They're the same ones as 20 years ago.
Wait, like the character names?
Yes. Taichi is called Kamiya. The misreading of the kanji in his name has been preserved.
Yeah, that you have to give that up. That's ingrained in lore at this point.
Koshiro is called Izzy Izumi. His name is Izumi Izumi.
Yeah, that written out is okay. That one I'll give you is weird because like when it's written out in official dub things, it's always like Koshiro quote unquote Izzy Izumi, but just seeing Izzy Izumi looks silly. Oh, well, anyway, the egg starts to follow Tataru, and then Axe Nightmon, another interesting Crosswords cameo.
Excuse you, that's Skull Nightmon.
Wait, what? I don't remember these different Nightmons. So Axe Nightmon is...
Axe Nightmon is the dub name of Dark Nightmon, who is the Digicross of Skull Nightmon and Axemon.
Okay, so Skull Nightmon is the base, the little...
Deadly Axemon, rather.
Oh god, Wait.
The one you're looking at is Skull Knightmon, and he evolves into the really cool looking Dark Knight.
Okay, then who's Skull? Wait, who's Deadly Nightmon? Deadly Axemon.
Deadly Axemon is the one that he's kind of like a satellite character to Skull Knightmon. He's just sort of like his dog. They fuse together and create Dark Knightmon.
He's the Grani that he just like attaches to.
Yes. It's the same kind of relationship. He has no speaking lines other than growling in the original Cross Wars. I don't even know if he shows up in the manga at all.
Well, yeah, that's the end of the episode. And then Devimon, this line from Devimon made no sense to me. He's just ominously in his tower, and he's like, "So you've unintentionally ended up in the suited form to seep into darkness." Who is he talking about? What does that mean? I tried to write down the Japanese line to like figure out what the intent of the line is, and there were too many words I did not really grasp.
These sure are words. These sure are grammar forms. I think he's saying that Angemon is going to be corrupted into darkness, which is like, yeah, please, Angemon, Enkoku Shinka, give it to us. But also, like, Angemon's corrupted form in lore is Devimon, and I thought it would have been really cool if, like, the Devimon we're fighting in this arc had actually been Takeru's partner the whole time.
Yeah, that'd be so. I was excited for that. That seemed like it'd be such a cool twist, and
that's not happening.
Like the dramatic buildup of like they've been searching for this holy Digimon for 20 episodes. If they find out that like the villain they have to defeat is the holy Digimon, great. That would be like fantastic. But nope, it's a random thing that came out of the ground randomly. Yeah. The grammar of this line is just so bizarre because it's like, I guess what he's implying is like, you fell into my trap and I have now taken possession of you and will corrupt you. But so you've unintentionally ended up in the suited form to seep into darkness is not.
This is where you call in a localization expert to come up with an equivalent English line.
Yeah.
Going with the literal is not like, it doesn't read well to native English speakers or to second language English speakers or to people in general.
Or to speakers, or to people who can listen. You don't need to speak. Yeah, and then at the end of the episode, we get the Digimon Encyclopedia segment with Kabuterimon and his mist-colored chest, which I did not catch until people pointed out. But yeah, his chest is definitely mist-colored in one of the images. And Koshiro talks about how his head is very hard but is comfortable to ride on, and also Kabuterimon teaches him jokes while he's there, but he does not understand half of them, which is just cute little lore.
Are we talking about the episode preview yet?
Sure. We can if you want.
Splashmon Darkness Mode is showing up. It is drippin' time.
Okay, I guess a running theme through this episode is I do not remember Cross Wars well enough. I vaguely remember Splashmon when I look at the design of that. It reminds me of the general arc. But does the darkness mode with that weird dog looking thing, was that in Cross Wars too?
Yes, that's a thing that I think. So, like, this is from the Death Generals arc, which I do not stan. I think that Death Generals was a lot of missed opportunities and, like, character writing and leaving things out that they should have left in. But Splashmon has another form called Darkness Mode that is used for, like, the climax of that episode, and it has some really good music that accompanies it. And I think what happened was that Splashmon created his, like, little minions, which were called Drippin', to, like, harass the protagonists for a while, and then he absorbs them and creates Splashmon Darkness Mode to enhance himself.
If you say so. It's a weird thing to pull in. It's neat in general that Digimon this season is pulling in lots of stuff from outside of Adventure. Yeah, so the teaser, the next episode is titled "The Tide Turning Update," and it's the narration says that Taichi's going to sacrifice his body, and a never before seen miracle befalls Metal Greymon.
Koji Kabuto dies in magma.
Who? What?
That's a 70s anime reference.
Oh.
Taichi's going to die, but not really.
So, but also the Japanese title is doing one of these weird things where like the actual kanji it's written out, it's Gyakuten no Buso Koka, and it's the Buso Koka is also like the furigana above it says updato, right? So it's like, I guess they translate it as just update, but Buso Koka, it's like, what is it, like weapon metal transform?
Oh, armament, like Buso, like kind of heavy armor or equipment, weapons.
And then like steel or iron transform.
When you say Koka, I think of the word effect, which is a homophone for that in Japanese.
Yeah, but so like armor and like iron or steel transformation, like
becoming armored.
That is a description that could befit War Greymon or Machine Dramon or Megidramon, sorry. Like,
or Blitz Greymon, come to think of it. But I think I think they might be going for the Mugendramon angle.
Right, I feel like Mugendramon is the thing that comes to mind when I think of take Metal Greymon's metalness and amplify it.
Yeah, because Mugendramon is literally made out of parts of different machine Digimon, and one of them is Metal Greymon.
Yeah, so that's exciting, and I guess it would be a fun twist for them to hype it up as like, oh, a positive miracle, and then in the episode itself be like, no, this is a corrupted evolution, or maybe
Yeah.
it's not a corrupted evolution. Maybe it's actually Mugendramon's not a bad thing.
My speculation at this point, based on how they're merchandising this series and like emphasizing Omegamon on the TV show, is that basically they're gonna go. Taichi's gonna have Metal Greymon evolve to Mugendramon. That's probably gonna be the Dark Evolution corruption arc thing. The next evolution after that, after they've like grown as people, is War Greymon. But then after they grow more, it's Blitz Greymon, and that results in eventually Omegamon Alter S further down the line.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, and maybe it's like everyone gets the War Greymon equivalent, but only Taichi and Yamato get the Blitz Greymon equivalent or something.
They're still screwing everybody else over.
Yeah,
all these years later.
Yeah, I mean the fact that we've had 2 episodes in a row that have basically just been Taichi and Yamato off on their own. It's not that dissimilar from the original show having like an entire arc about Taichi during the Edamon saga, right? But like at least everyone else was around for that, even if it was a lot about Taichi's inner thoughts.
You know, we do have one thing to look forward to, that like further down the line we could potentially have a retread of Taichi and Yamato dueling each other, only this time we have the benefit of like actual animation budget.
I guess so.
Assuming they like put the money there correctly.
All right, let's get into some 3-word reviews because we are running late on time. At Dot Yawning said, history repeats itself.
At Gigadramon22, no Omegamon today.
At More Pastel, hype is restored.
At Sentinel Bait, it's happening.
At 1 Foot Stout, I have questions.
At Empire Will, inconsistent enemy power.
At Born Individual, anticipating Axnightmon's annihilation.
At the Raggedy Man, TK's weird ass day.
At Poruto Gumaz, and it's gone. I hope they mean the egg and not their excitement for the show.
Oh, yeah. At Lucas Quucas, Takeru's massive cranium.
His head is big. His mouth is also huge. Like when he has like the one line where he says Oni-chan, it's like this cute little baby voice and also a huge mouth. And I was definitely
Pac-Man head. It looks like the proportions, the giant mouth and the big eyes, like he's going to be in a little maze chomping on pellets.
At Rogo Sprout, Velgamon got punked.
Yeah, he did. At Megadramon22, hey, that's me.
At Flying Walrus, Weregurumon on Missile.
At Andy Lucas TT, Matt imitated Beelzemon.
At Urson Black, Leomon over-survived Angemon, which I was surprised that people were surprised by this because that's how it is in the original show too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Leomon, if you like track it from the episode he was first mentioned in, he's had a great run this series.
Yeah.
At Golden Pelt, Forbidden Wonder Ball.
At Leo Sketch, Digitama's finally established.
Yeah, that took a long time.
All right, let's get into questions. Andy Lucas TT said, what's Matt's brother's name? I don't think I caught this episode. It's a Takahu.
Yeah, they didn't.
I don't remember Yamato screaming Takaru over and over again. Maybe that's a testament to like it worked on me. I don't know.
Maybe.
But at Rogo Sprout said, Velgamon came off as a badass throughout this episode, more than Nidogmon before, only to be defeated really unceremoniously. And they also mentioned that they legit thought that Omegamon was going to pop out at the end.
I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that. That is a bar so low I hadn't even thought about it. But if that had happened,
I know the kids love it. For me, it's kind of like seeing Dragonic Overlord show up again in Vanguard. The kids love it. I have seen it too many times. It's not special anymore.
Right. I feel like, especially with like the way Omegamon's used in the like promotional materials and like artwork for like new, I don't know, like pop-up shops and stuff and the card game and everything, it's like it feels like the way that Agumon was the mascot of the original show, Omegamon's the mascot of the show. And
oh gosh, yeah.
So like, yeah, to me he has the same level of hype as Agumon. Like he's there, he's fun, whatever, but like it's not this huge dramatic shakeup when he appears. And if the disconnect happens when he appears with terrible animation, they make it seem like that's a big dramatic shakeup. And it's like, nope, he's just the mascot. Yeah.
They're about to print probably an Omegamon Alter S that can evolve from black in the card game, and I will be loath to run it in my black deck.
You will be forced, the meta will force you to go against your will.
Give me Woromon please.
At Dot Yawning said, spirits as enemies, and mentions that saw another one in the network. I don't remember that. Well, anyway,
I didn't notice one myself, but this episode was really bad about keeping my brain on, so maybe I missed it.
But yeah, spirits as enemies, Tucker and Yamato playing the role of Juri and Beelzebumon, and then Skull Knight at the end. Rolling later elements into the season continues. I wonder what's next. And yeah, I like we've talked about before. Like I guess it's not directly a Jury and Beelzebumon reference. Like it's been like it's not a unique idea. Digimon's done several different times, but it is striking how much Frontier and Crosswords Digimon are showing up in this season, and it does seem to be like targeted to those seasons. So I guess it's cool that they're taking these like later Digimon designs and rolling them into this iconic property.
Yeah, and like the right, so they actually were going back through the reference book and adding levels to Digimon that didn't have them before, including a lot of Cross Wars Digimon.
Yeah, yeah.
And some, I think, some Frontier spirits too. So like it makes sense that they're trying to like integrate that into the bigger franchise now and kind of pay respect to their older fans, even while writing a season that really doesn't vibe with them too much.
I mean, I don't think they don't feel completely out of place. I feel like
No, they're integrated well. Like the use of the Bagra army soldiers, I forget what those Digimon are called.
the Troopmon, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. At Lucas Kukas said, even just the taste of family drama in this episode got me more hopeful for things to come. I feel like you can count the amount of good, genuine character moments in the series so far on one hand.
Yeah, you can, and I don't want to.
Yeah, I totally agree. But like I said, I have mixed feelings. I feel like Koshiro's moment is promising, and Sora's. It reminds me of the that memorial short leading into the movie Last Evolution Kizuna with Sora, where it was like, this is a great little character episode, but I'm bummed about it because on a larger scale, and the point of it is to not have her be in the movie.
Yeah.
Or like to explain why she's not in the movie and to like make it not that big of a make it less annoying as she's not in the movie. So I feel like similarly with this moment with her mom, I'm like, great tease. I'm worried the tease is all we're getting.
And with like that example, I think that by calling attention to it with the short, they might have made it more annoying than if they had like, I don't know, just worked in 30 more seconds into the film to add something brief about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a larger discussion, but I feel like the short at least gave us something, and so I'm at least happy with that. At Empire Will said, Wergramon riding the missile was pretty silly. Velgramon not moving and wrapped up was odd. Do you think Velgramon and these other dungeons are supposed to be too big to notice what's happening? I guess. This is something that like bothered me when I first watched it, but then on rewatch it didn't even occur to me because it's just, I mean, it's not important to the action that's happening in the moment, and that's all the show. It can't really multitask enough to handle more than just the action that's happening in the moment, I think. So
man, we've lowered our bar since episode 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when we were like, oh my god, everyone has unique animations, like Greymon is doing all these different attacks and isn't just doing the stock animation. It's just,
it is funny that even Velgramon was like more conversant in Frontier than in this.
Yeah.
And in Frontier he like barely said anything. He said like, light, destroy.
I just remember being disappointed at Velgramon in Frontier. I remember like Duskmon being a great, intimidating villain that I loved, and then Velgramon appeared, and I was like, became a bird? What? Oh,
no,
okay.
I love them both. It was so good. I kind of wish that they had continued to use that the corrupted spirits of darkness were actually the real spirits of darkness. Like they didn't need to be purified, and you could. Oh, sorry, bleep that name out. Spoiler character could still be big and scary throughout the rest of the season while being a good guy.
I don't think that's a big spoiler. I think most people have either watched Frontier at this point or are not going to give it a chance, or have heard enough, have seen the memes with the stairs.
Yeah. Thinking about this, occurred to me when you were reading Dot Yawning's question, but then I didn't I lost the thought. Skull Knightmon had a really good voice in Cross Wars, and I kind of wish that we could like get him to talk the way that Minotaurmon did in the previous episodes and like have that voice actor reprise their role for that, because we haven't had like conversant villains. We've had Ogremon, Devimon, and Minotaurmon, and that's it.
Yeah, the dialogue has been very limited, and it's not so limiting that like there are moments in Try where I was like these characters should be talking now, and it's just awkward that they're not. It's never been that bad. It's never been like this feels like a moment where a character is supposed to be talking and it's just silent. But so it's not like the execution is completely abysmal. It's just sad and disappointing when I think about I wish these characters had talked more. So yeah, I guess Digimon, the bar is there's always a lower bar to compare to. Megajimon22 asked, has your favorite character from Adventure changed in Adventure 22? Like, I was the biggest Joe and Sora fan in Adventure, but now in 2020, I'm all about Wolf Boy Yamato. I feel like I had a similar shift in that, like, I don't know who I would have considered my favorite in the original, but, like, I feel like it's shifted towards Yamato in this version just because he's gotten more screen time. But I also like Koshiro a lot more this time.
I think that I'm definitely towards Koshiro and Yamato this time around. As a kid, I don't know that I had too much of a favorite character because I definitely projected onto Taichi. I was actually pretty young to be watching Digimon. I think I might have been about 6 or 7 when I first saw it. And that, like, I don't know, I wasn't super invested in character writing. I would have liked a series like this probably, where it's just monsters blowing stuff up, but then I wouldn't have gone back to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't feel like I appreciated the character development in the show, but I don't feel like I particularly grafted onto any one character as a kid.
Yeah.
All right, let's plow through the rest of the questions because I have a Zipcar reservation starting at right now. um, but the Megaman22 also asked, what lie would 11-year-old you tell your parents if you went missing for 3 days during a citywide crisis that lets you go out the next day like nothing happened?
Oh, I know exactly what I would do. I would say that I have a sister that is 7 years older than me and like has always been looking out for me my whole life. I would say that during the crisis I just went to her apartment cuz she would have been 18 when I was 11 and stayed with her because that's who they tell me to rely on. And I know that my sister would cover for me if she found out that I had told my parents that.
So she would just be complicit in the lie and you wouldn't need to explain what happened? She wouldn't be worried about your safety?
I mean, I would need to explain to her what I was actually doing, but she would cover for me. She's covered for me before with my parents.
I as a kid was too paranoid about like I remember like always worrying that like my parents were like omniscient and like knew everything. Like I remember at times even thinking that like they must have like cameras in places and like know everything that happens in this house. Only once I was older was like, wait, we're poor. We don't have money for cameras. Like what? Like so I don't think I would have been able to lie. I would have been like, so I went to the digital world, I fought these Digimon, I saved the world. Like
Then they would think you're lying.
yeah, they would think I'm lying, but
My sister would believe me about the digital world, especially when I showed her the actual Digimon.
you don't have the Digimon as evidence. They disappeared.
Koshiro has an internet connection. The
You
Digimon can apparently Skype with you.
they'd be like, okay, you drew an OC and then you animated it. Great.
When are you starting that YouTube channel? Are you going to be a VTuber?
Oh, Digimon as VTuber avatars would be great. So yeah, final thoughts now. Rushed because I am running late, but what would you rate this episode out of 5 stars?
A 2, maybe 2.5, if I'm being generous. I don't know if I should be generous.
I'll give it 3 stars. I feel kind of bad because the sentiment from our Twitter polls is actually pretty positive. Like, it had a bunch of 5 stars.
Oh,
and
really?
It's one of the most positive. Like, it's definitely rebounded since the Omegamon episode.
Yeah, I think the Minotaurmon episode actually like helped in the midst of all that.
Mm-hmm.
There was more going on there.
Yeah. So do you have an MVP from this episode?
It's Velgramon. He set up the plot, he carried it out. He was unfortunately boring at times, but he was probably the most interesting of the characters to me.
He is a big bird boy, I'll give you that. But I'm gonna give it to Weregrumon for the missile surfing. Because that's the standout moment. All right, so that brings us to the end of the show. Last week's Digiprompt was in honor of Leomon's debut this week. Who is the most attractive character, human or Digimon, in the series and why? And my favorite response came in from @RayOfTruth1. And they said, I think Metal Mamamon using Magnet Beam and Blitzmon generating a magnetic field are the most magnetically attractive. Canonically, Gaiamon is the most gravitationally attractive Digimon, but Grace Novamon, Zed Millenniummon, and Shoutmon, how do they pronounce Shoutmon Cross 7F?
Yeah.
Also likely have strong gravity too. So I thought that was a great answer because this I was surprised that the tweet that I posted asking for responses for this like was very popular. Lots of horniness coming out. Lots of people like talking about their gay awakenings, their furry awakenings. And it was very fun seeing everyone's responses. Lots of great answers. So I went with the most joke answer because there were too many good answers to pass up, and too many of them that I agreed with very strongly. There are lots of attractive Digimon apparently.
Who wants to like have their being horny on main shared on Pedigious? Come on.
Well, a lot of people apparently. I appreciate the people that found that tweet and were like, "Oh God, what corner of Twitter have I stumbled upon?" But yeah, I do not have. I still need to think about what the Digimon for next week's episode is, but no one really replies until I do the tweet anyway. So, by the end of the week, I'll have a tweet. So look for the tweet, and then I'll read the answer to that question next week. So, send your general feedback to podages@gmail.com, podages on Twitter, or in the episode comments on our website, podages.com. If this is your first episode, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or on traditional podcast apps. If you want to support the podcast, share it with your friends who will climb a giant bird and surf on missiles to wake you up when you nap too long. And please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps out. I'm Jeff on Twitter, and you can also check out my general anime podcast, Love It or Weeb It. Toya, thank you so much for coming on. If people want to find you on the internet, where can they go?
They can follow the links that I believe you post with every episode to my Twitter @Towoya. On YouTube at the Maniacs channel and at DigimonCard.net, where I'm posting all of the latest card reveals.
Sweet. This we're in the height of Digimon card reveal season. and there is.
Yeah. Oh, heck, V-Jump's coming out soon. It could have come out while I was on this
Oh
podcast.
no! Oh god, that's a problem with me having you on a month after last time. Is that both of them are
Yeah,
right
please
for V-Jump.
desync me from this schedule. I would be so much better.
Oh, I'm sorry for cursing with that, but thank you for coming on. It's been a blast.
Yeah, I have fun.
All right, so thank you for listening, and I'll be back with another guest next week to talk about episode 21, the Tide Turning Update. Bye.
Bye.
And remember, never stop digivolving.
years ago, I think it was maybe in advance of Appmon coming out, I made a Tumblr post that ended up getting relatively popular that was about the cyclical process of what goes on in the Digimon fandom, that Digimon fans clamor for a new series. And then a new one gets announced, and Digimon fans hate it because it's new and different. It does badly. Digimon goes into a period of hiatus. The fans start clamoring for a new series, while also retroactively looking at the older one and kind of going, hey, that wasn't that bad. Frontier actually is kind of good. And then the new one comes out, and it's new and different, and the fandom hates it, and Digimon goes on another hiatus.
Yeah, that's accurate. And even less pessimistically, like I was saying before, that like when I think about my love for the seasons, it's like the longer it's been since I watched a season, the more nostalgic I get for it, and the more I'm like I haven't rewatched Cross Wars ever. When I think about it, I only watched it when it not when it was airing, but like when I found it on Crunchyroll in 2011 or 2012. And so I'm like, right now I'm like, oh my god, Cross Wars is amazing! I can't wait to rewatch it. I'm so excited for it. Like I really want to rewatch it, and I'm sure once I do, I'm gonna be like, never mind. But
I find that watching with friends actually makes the experience a lot better. For like that goes for most anime actually, except perhaps like I don't know, Evangelion. Evangelion is a show you have to watch by yourself and start thinking about, and it's kind of depressing to do so. But like with Digimon, so I watched Kizuna with a group, like we kind of watch partied it, not like in person, but over the net, and we had a lot of fun reacting to the movie in real time and seeing these things. And then it got to that scene, and we were all like, "Oh, all right, Digimon's putting us in the corner. We got to think about our crimes."
uh, um, and and when you mentioned the proper way to watch Evangelion, I think the proper way to watch it is to watch it in a room full of people clapping as you watch it, congratulating you.
That might be it.
That's the only faithful way to watch Evangelion. It like is paralyzing everyone on the ground, and then rips open Valvemon, pulls up Takaru. I always pulls up Takeru. No, I did that wrong again. How do you pronounce
It's
it?
fine. Phoneme. What? Takeru? Phonemes don't like translate across languages. It's weird. Having to switch between English and Japanese constantly just kills my mouth.
Yeah, I just struggle because I'm like both ways. Like Takaru and Takeru is definitely wrong. But even when I say
Yeah.
Takaru, it feels like I'm putting the emphasis on the second syllable. So I'm like, that's not right. But I guess it's.
Sakura.
I hate that I say Takato and Takuya. I really hard to train myself off of that. But anyway.
And remember, never stop digivolving.
And remember, never stop digivolving. I've never had more than one person do that. I didn't even think about that.
We should both be saying it in unison.
And then we progress because the holy feathers have fallen, and then we disappoint everyone, and then we keep doing it and keep disappointing everyone.